I remember that morning like it was, well, yesterday. The air in my apartment was cool, the kind of crispness you get in early spring in the city. I was standing in my kitchen, mindlessly grinding coffee beans, the familiar whir, a welcome hum against the quiet. The sun was just starting to climb, painting the wall a pale, almost clinical yellow. Routine, you know? That's what I built my life around, stability. After everything, after Marcus. My eyes drifted across the clean quartz countertop, past the fruit bowl, past the stack of mail. And then they just stopped. It was there, sitting right next to the coffee grinder, glinting dully in that weak morning light. A silver lighter, worn, chipped, the kind you'd find at a flea market, maybe. But I knew it. Oh, God, I knew it. There was a deep, uneven scratch on one side, an M I had carved into it with my house key years ago. A stupid, childish act. A declaration, I guess, back then. A declaration of something I don't even recognize anymore. I paused the grinder. The sudden silence was jarring. My hand, still holding the filter, felt heavy. I remember standing there, just staring at it. It couldn't be. I had thrown that thing away, years ago, when I packed up my life, left that small town, left him. I'd made sure of it, gone, into a public bin, somewhere far away from me. I was so sure, so absolutely positively sure. But there it was, on my kitchen counter, in my perfectly ordered apartment. No, I mumbled, mostly to myself. My voice sounded thin, a little too shaky. No, no way. I picked it up. It felt cold, heavier than I remembered. The metal was smooth beneath my thumb, the M still sharp. I turned it over in my fingers. There was no way. I must have. Maybe I didn't throw it out. Maybe it just got lost in a box somehow, and I never noticed. It was a stupid, flimsy excuse, and I knew it, but it was the only one I had. My chest felt tight suddenly. Just a coincidence, that's all. I forced myself to finish making coffee. The aroma, usually so comforting, tasted metallic in my mouth. I tried to focus on the steam rising, on the clink of the mug against the saucer. Just a stray object, nothing to worry about. Just a very, very old something that somehow resurfaced. I drank my coffee, black and bitter, trying to wash away the lingering unease. It wasn't working. That lighter, innocuous as it seemed, had somehow cracked something open. A tiny fracture in the piece I'd built so carefully. Getting into my car, driving to work, I tried to push it out of my mind. The morning rush, the blare of horns, the cacophony of the city, usually it was a good distraction. I turned on the radio, looking for something upbeat, something to drown out the little voice in my head that kept whispering, "Marcus, Marcus, Marcus." Then it happened. The DJ was talking, a cheerful, empty chatter. He faded out, and then, there it was, our song. It wasn't a rare song, no. It had been quite popular back in the day. A cheesy pop ballad, really. But it had been our song. Marcus's and mine. I felt a chill go through me, even though the car heater was on. My hands gripping the steering wheel felt clammy. Just a coincidence, I told myself again. It's a popular song, still gets played. Of course it does. But then, in the middle of the second verse, as the female lead sang about holding hands under the moonlight, I heard it. A whisper. Faint, almost imperceptible, but it was there, weaving through the melody, right into my ear. "I'll never let you go." My breath hitched. The whisper was low, raspy, like dry leaves scraping against pavement. And it was so familiar, so very Marcus, from when he was younger, before everything.
That deep, possessive rumble. I actually flinched. I slammed my hand down on the volume knob, twisting it counterclockwise until the radio went completely silent. My heart was pounding, a frantic drum against my ribs. The car felt dead then, just the hum of the engine, the distant traffic. But the whisper, it still echoed. Not from the speakers. It was as if it had settled inside my head. I'll never let you go. Like it was coming from inside my own ear, my own skull. A phantom sound. My hands were shaking, hard. I pulled over, just for a moment, letting the wave of nausea pass. It was just stress. I was overtired. That lighter, it unsettled me, that's all. My mind was playing tricks. I took a deep, shuddering breath. It had to be.
I made it to work, somehow. The fluorescent lights of the office felt harsh, artificial. I tried to immerse myself in spreadsheets, in emails about project deadlines. Anything to distract myself, anything to feel normal again. And then the next thing happened. My inbox pinged, a new email. The sender simply said, "An old friend." My fingers froze mid-air above the keyboard. An old friend? That phrase, it twisted something in my gut. I hesitated. For a long moment, I just stared at the screen, my heart thumping so hard I thought my colleagues in the next cubicle might hear it. I didn't want to open it. I knew I didn't want to open it. But I had to. It was like I was physically incapable of not clicking on it. My hand moved on its own, dragging the cursor over the subject line. The email opened, and my blood went cold. It was a passage, a diary entry, my diary entry, from when I was 18, foolish and so in love. I used to write everything down back then, everything about Marcus. It was so personal, so private. How could anyone? The words were there, word for word, my own messy teenage handwriting transposed into neat digital text. He looked at me like he saw the whole world. I remembered writing that, remembered the dizzying rush of feeling it. But then, a new line, inserted right after my own words, in a different font, bolder, almost predatory looking. And that world will forever belong to him. My eyes blurred. I blinked hard, trying to clear them, feeling something like cobwebs brush across my face, even though there was nothing there. Just the cold, blue light of the screen. I tried to tell myself I was misreading it, that it was a trick of the light, or my own tired brain. But the words stayed, stark, horrifying. That world will forever belong to him. It was a message, not a random spam email. This was targeted, personal, and twisted beyond anything I could comprehend. Someone knew about my past, knew about Marcus, knew about me. My hands were shaking again, worse than before. My breath was coming in short, shallow gasps. I needed to know, needed to find out. Was it him? Could it possibly be him? After all these years? I closed the email. My fingers flew across the keyboard, typing a name into the search bar. A name I hadn't typed in over a decade. Marcus Thorne. The search results loaded almost instantly. My eyes scanned the headlines, the thumbnails. Most were business news, financial reports. But then there were others, darker, grittier, associated with words like underworld, ruthless, new crime lord, and a picture. It was in a news article,
tucked away near the bottom of the page. A grainy, almost blurred photo, taken in shadow, maybe from a distance. The face was different, harder, more defined in a cruel sort of way. A jagged scar ran from his temple, disappearing into the collar of an expensive suit. His hair was slicked back. But the eyes, oh God, the eyes. They were piercing, cold, absolutely devoid of any warmth. But I knew those eyes. I knew the way they could bore into you, make you seen, utterly and completely consumed, make you feel owned. I dropped my phone. It clattered against the wooden floor of my office, a dry, sharp sound that echoed in the sudden ringing silence of the room. I barely registered it. My gaze was fixed, unblinking, on the screen. It was him, Marcus, but not the Marcus I had known, not the boy I had loved. This was something else, something forged in darkness, hardened by power. A monster wearing a familiar face. My Marcus, alive, and he had become something awful, truly, unbelievably awful. My mind raced, trying to reconcile the smiling face in my memories with the cold, dead eyes in the photograph. What had he done? What had he become? How could he possibly be this? I closed the laptop with a snap. The hinges creaked, a sound like a low moan in the quiet room. I leaned back against the cold, painted wall, trying to catch my breath. It had to be a joke, a sick, elaborate, terrifying joke, or a coincidence. Someone else with the same name. It had to be. My mind scrambled for any logical explanation. But then, just a few seconds later, the laptop screen flickered, and it lit up again, all on its own. A pale blue glow spread across my face. A chat window had popped open. Not an email, a direct message. There was no sender icon, no username, just a single line of text, blinking.
I know you're watching, my love. My stomach churned. I swallowed hard, a dry, painful gulp. My apartment was on the 3rd floor. I lived alone. My Wi-Fi was password protected, my laptop too. There was no way he could have known, no way he could have done that. Or could he? A cold shiver, not from the air conditioning, ran down my spine. And then a smell, faint at first, almost imperceptible, but it was there, rising, permeating the sterile air of my office. It was his cologne, the scent Marcus used to wear, the one I had once loved, found comforting, intoxicating, sandalwood and something sharp, almost metallic. It was lingering, in my clean living room, in the brutal clarity of the afternoon light. It wasn't a trick of my mind. It was unmistakably there. I could practically taste it. The room wasn't just smelling of him. It felt like it was breathing, like the walls were closing in, groaning softly. My apartment, my sanctuary. It felt like it was swallowing my safety whole. Like my own home, my refuge, had become an accomplice, a betrayer. Panic, cold and sharp, clawed at my throat. I threw the laptop onto my bed. It bounced once, then lay there, screen still glowing, the message still blinking. My back trembled, leaning against the wall, trying to get away from the scent, from the light, from the implication of it all. I squeezed my eyes shut, trying to rationalize, trying to bargain with the fear. It was just a smell, just a coincidence, just...
I lay in bed later that night, the darkness thick and heavy around me. I had forced myself to eat something, to try and pretend everything was fine. But my stomach was tied in knots. My mind wouldn't stop replaying the lighter, the song, the email, the article, the message. And that smell, that damn smell. I closed my eyes, trying desperately to find sleep, to escape into oblivion. Silence. Just the hum of the fridge from the kitchen, the distant city murmur. Then a sound, soft, deliberate. Knock, knock, knock. 3 distinct taps. They came from the direction of my walk-in closet. My breath hitched, my eyes snapped open. I couldn't move. My heart hammered against my ribs, a trapped bird desperate to escape. 3 knocks. I knew that rhythm. It was his rhythm. The way Marcus used to tap on my bedroom door every morning when we were kids, growing up in that small town. Before we were lovers. Before everything went wrong. A signal, a secret knock. It couldn't be. It was just an old house settling, just the pipes, just anything but that. I squeezed my eyes shut again, so tight I saw stars. Imaginary. It had to be imaginary. Just a memory. Just my mind playing tricks. Suddenly, a faint flicker of light cut through the blackness of my room. A cold, blue spark. From the kitchen. The old silver lighter. It flared. Again. Again. Lighting up the countertop, illuminating the empty, silent kitchen. And then it went out, plunging my apartment back into absolute darkness. I didn't dare open my eyes again, not for a long, long time. The fear had finally, truly taken root, and I knew, with a certainty that chilled me to the bone, that it wasn't going to let me go. I remember that morning like a blur, like someone had smeared grease across the window of my memory. After the knocks and the lighter, I don't think I slept, not really. I just lay there, frozen, listening to the creaks of the apartment, the whisper of the city outside. Every shadow became something else. Every sound a threat. The smell of his cologne, it faded with the dawn. But the feeling of it, the lingering essence, that stayed. It felt like it was woven into the fabric of the couch, clinging to the curtains, pressed into my skin. I tried to act normal. That's what you do, right? When the world starts to crack, you pretend it's just a scratch. I made coffee, drank it, black. I even managed a shower, though I kept expecting to see something, anything, reflected in the misted glass. Nothing. Just me. Pale. Eye-eyed. The first thing I did after that, after pulling myself together, was call Sarah, my best friend, my rock. I needed a normal voice, a steady anchor. "Hey, it's me," I said, trying to sound casual, trying to ignore the way my voice still felt strained. "Elara, finally, you okay? You sound a little off." Sarah's voice, bless her, was warm, full of life. It was a lifeline.
"Yeah, just a rough night, you know?" I chuckled, a fake, brittle sound that even fooled me for half a second. "Work stuff. Stress." "I know," Sarah said, her voice softening. "Sometimes I wish I could just come over and then I heard it, a soft, deliberate sound. Knock. Knock. 2 taps, right from the direction of my bedroom door. My eyes, they snapped to it. It was shut, closed, just like I'd left it. It was the way Sarah always knocked, her secret knock, from when we were kids and needed to sneak into each other's rooms. A slight pause between the 2 taps, a gentle insistence. My breath caught in my throat. Sarah's voice still flowed from the phone, easy, oblivious. Give you a hug. My hand, holding the phone, trembled. I didn't say anything. Couldn't. I just stared at the wooden door. It was closed, solid. There was no one there. No one could be there. Sarah was on the phone, 1,000 miles away. Ilara, you still there? Sarah asked, a note of concern creeping into her voice. Yeah, I'm here, I choked out. My voice sounded thin, stretched. Just heard something. Guess it was just the building settling. Old buildings always make the best noises, she joked, trying to lighten the mood. But it didn't work, not for me. I tried to focus on her voice, on her plans for the weekend, on anything that sounded normal. But the image of that door, the ghost of those 2 soft taps, they were seared into my mind. I could still hear them, almost. A phantom echo. My heart beat a frantic rhythm. It had to be nothing, just my mind playing tricks, being overtired. The lighter, the song, it was all getting to me. I had to believe that. I had to. After I hung up with Sarah, feeling only slightly calmer, I decided I needed to see Ben, my boyfriend. He was stable, grounded. He'd make sense of it. He'd tell me I was imagining things, tell me it was okay. I just needed to hear it from someone I trusted, someone real. I texted him, asked if he was free for coffee. He agreed, sounding a little distant, but I brushed it off. Just an off day. I met him at our usual cafe, the one with the big windows overlooking the park. It was a bright, sunny day, the kind of day that screamed normal. People laughed, kids ran around, dogs barked. Reality. This was reality. Ben was already there, sipping a latte. He looked different. His shoulders seemed tighter. His eyes, usually so warm when he looked at me, kept darting around, over my shoulder, at the window, anywhere but my face. Hey, I said, my voice still a little hoarse from lack of sleep. I tried to smile, but it felt like the muscles in my face wouldn't cooperate. Hey, you okay? He asked, but his tone was flat, like he was reading lines. No, not really. Ben, things have been insane. Last night, I swear, it was just, I don't even know what to call it. I found a lighter, my old lighter. Then I heard our song, and there was this email, and then Marcus. I trailed off, looking for a flicker of understanding, an ounce of concern. His eyes, for a split second, met mine. Then they drifted away again, scanning the bustling cafe. Marcus, huh? His voice was even, too even. Yeah, the old Marcus, but not. He's different. He's something else. And he's screwing with me, Ben. I think he's watching me. I swallowed hard. The words sounded crazy, even to my own ears. Ben just nodded slowly, taking another sip of his coffee. I remember you telling me you and Marcus used to carve your names into that old gnarled tree in Hillside Park, right? My heart stopped. My cold coffee cup rattled against my teeth. The sound was too loud in my ears. I hadn't told him that. Not ever. That was a memory. My memory. Mine and Marcus's. A stupid, childish thing we did when we were maybe 14. A secret. A secret I had never, ever shared with Ben, or anyone else for that matter. He continued, his voice still flat, as if recounting a mundane story. Or how you used to always complain about him stealing your oversized hoodie, but secretly you loved it because it smelled like him. Yeah, those were good memories for you two, I guess. A cold shiver snaked its way up my spine, prickling my skin. It wasn't the air conditioning. It felt like spider webs were clinging to my face, to my hair, even though nothing was there. I stared at him, my mouth slightly open,
my mind scrambling for an explanation.
Why was he saying this? How did he know? Ben, I... I never told you any of that, I whispered, my eyes darting frantically around the cafe, suddenly checking every face, every shadow. He finally looked at me, a strange, almost vacant expression on his face. Didn't you? I could have sworn you did. Maybe a long time ago? Or maybe I just knew. It's like some things you just pick up on after being with someone for so long. He offered a small, hesitant smile that didn't reach his eyes. It felt like someone had just whispered those stories into Ben's ear right as I was thinking about them. Or worse, even worse, like someone had injected them into his mind. My vision blurred for a second. The colorful cafe, the vibrant park, it all seemed to warp, to become a little less real. This wasn't Ben, not really. Or maybe it was, but he was tainted. I couldn't sit there anymore, couldn't pretend. I mumbled an excuse about needing to get to work, leaving my coffee untouched. Ben just nodded again, his eyes drifting away. No protest, no offer to walk me, nothing. He just watched me go. Or maybe he didn't. Maybe he wasn't even seeing me. The office, my sanctuary, or what used to be. I powered on my laptop, my fingers still numb from the cold coffee cup. I told myself to focus, to work, to reassert control. Maybe if I could just get something normal done, everything else would fall into place. But normal was gone. It had packed up its bags and left without saying goodbye. I tried to log into the company's internal system to pull up my project files. The screen flickered, a long, shuddering pause. Then my profile loaded, and my blood went cold again. It wasn't my profile, not anymore. My name was there, my picture, but the data, it was all wrong. My job title had been changed to Fraud Analyst, pending investigation. My current projects were listed as suspended for financial irregularities. And then there were the details under my personal information. My salary was suddenly astronomical, accompanied by a note about unexplained large transfers to offshore accounts. Below that, a list of past incidents I'd never heard of. Accusations of falsifying reports, of sabotaging colleagues, even a bizarre mention of unlicensed possession of classified data. My hands flew to the mouse. This was insane. I had to fix it. I clicked on the Edit button. Nothing happened. The cursor moved sluggishly across the screen, like it was dragging through mud. I tried to select a section, to delete the damning lines. But the moment I clicked Delete, a new line, even more grotesque, appeared right below the one I was trying to erase. It was like a hydra. Every deletion spawned a new, worse accusation. No, 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 I mumbled, my voice rough. I reached for my desk lamp, flicked it on, hoping its bright, artificial glow would cut through the growing dread. But instead of the room getting brighter, it seemed to absorb the light. The corners of the office grew darker. The cubicle walls seemed to press in, almost swallowing the light, making the room feel smaller, heavier. Only the laptop screen, with its horrifying accusations, glowed with an unnerving, sickly blue intensity. It was like the laptop itself was the only source of light, and it was radiating darkness. I tried again and again. Delete. Another accusation. Delete. Another, longer, more detailed account of some fictional crime. My fingers were shaking so hard I could barely press the keys. This wasn't just a hack. This was deliberate, personal. An attack not just on my sanity, but on my life, my entire existence, my career,
everything I had built. So I did the only thing I could think of. I called IT. My voice was barely a whisper when the IT technician finally picked up. My account, it's been hacked. Someone changed everything. My profile, my projects. It says I'm being investigated. A sigh from the other end. Ma'am, I'm looking at your account right now. Everything seems in order, although I do see some recent modifications. Yes, they're not mine. Someone did it. Someone broke in. I cried, louder than I intended. My coworker in the next cubicle shifted, then stopped, probably listening. Well, ma'am, according to the system logs, all those changes were made from your IP address, using your login credentials. There's no sign of external intrusion. There was a pause, and they were made about an hour ago.
Seems you were quite busy. A chuckle, faint and dismissive. Maybe you just need to get some rest, you know? The phone felt heavy in my hand. My world tilted. No external intrusion? All from my account? My IP address? I pressed the end call button, my fingers trembling so violently I almost dropped the receiver. I stared at the screen again, the accusations, still there, still glowing with that awful, sickly light. They didn't seem to be fading, but they felt different, a little less sharp, a little more integrated, like they were trying to blend in with the background of my actual profile. I rubbed my eyes hard, pressed my palms against them until I saw spots. When I opened them again, the words were still there, but now they looked like my own handwriting, my own messy, hurried script, as if I had typed them, as if I had written them. The thought hit me with the force of a physical blow. Had I? Had I done this? In my sleep? In some kind of trance? Was I actually losing my mind? The line between what was real and what was in my head, it was dissolving, disappearing. I couldn't stay there, not in that office, not in that apartment, not anywhere that felt like home. It wasn't safe. Nothing was safe. I needed to get out, get away, even if just for a few hours. I needed to pack a bag, go to a hotel, somewhere nameless, impersonal. I walked back to my apartment on unsteady legs, the city outside a blur. All I could think of was escape, just a temporary one. I didn't know where I was going, only that I had to leave this place that was becoming a cage. In my bedroom, I pulled out an old suitcase, the one I hadn't used since I moved here. My arms ached, not just from the exhaustion, but from something deeper, heavier. I started folding clothes, throwing them in without much thought. T-shirts, jeans. Then, as I reached for a pair of socks, my hand brushed against something small, flat, stuck under the leg of my dresser. I bent down, my fingers numb. It was a photograph, an old one, faded around the edges. It was me, 8 years old, on the beach. My hair was wild, plastered to my forehead by the sea breeze. And beside me, grinning, was Marcus, young Marcus, his arms slung around my shoulders, his eyes bright with mischief. We were laughing, carefree, innocent. It was a memory I cherished, a snapshot from a life that felt like a dream now. But then, my eyes focused. Half of Marcus's face in the photo was gone, burned, a jagged black hole where his cheek and temple should have been. The edges of the paper were singed, curling inwards. And the remaining part of his face, it wasn't the young Marcus, not the boy I loved. The eye that remained, it was cold, hard. The skin around it, though unburnt, seemed to have taken on a rough, gnarled texture. It was the face from the news article, the crime lord,
the monster. His eyes, staring out from the old photograph, were devoid of any warmth. Empty, piercing. My mouth was dry. I felt my lips move, but no sound came out. This can't be. It wasn't a new picture. It was that picture. The one from my past, the one from my childhood. But it had been changed, altered, distorted, as if something had reached across time, across memories themselves, and twisted it into this grotesque mockery. I sat down hard on the floor, the photo clutched in my trembling fingers. The image of the bright, innocent beach seemed to mock me. I touched the burned part of Marcus's face in the photo, and it felt cold, like stone, like ash. I looked at myself in the picture, the 8-year-old Ilara. My smile was wide, full of childish joy. I closed my eyes, desperately trying to conjure the pure memory. In my mind, little Ilara was still smiling, happy. I opened my eyes and looked back at the photo. The smile on the 8-year-old Ilara's face was still wide, but it had stretched. It went too far, pulling her cheeks unnaturally tight. Her pupils had shrunk to pinpricks, and her eyes, once sparkling, were now black, utterly, completely black, like Marcus's. My mouth was dry. I felt my lips move, but no sound came out. This can't be. It wasn't a new picture. It was that picture, the one from my past, the one from my childhood. But it had been changed, altered, distorted, as if something had reached across time, across memories themselves, and twisted it into this grotesque mockery. I sat down hard on the floor, the photo clutched in my trembling fingers. The image of the bright, innocent beach seemed to mock me. I touched the burned part of Marcus's face in the photo, and it felt cold, like stone, like ash. I looked at myself in the picture, the 8-year-old Ilara. My smile was wide, full of childish joy. I closed my eyes, desperately trying to conjure the pure memory. I opened my eyes and looked back at the photo. The smile on the 8-year-old Ilara's face was still wide, but it had stretched. It went too far, pulling her cheeks unnaturally tight. Her pupils had shrunk to pinpricks, and her eyes, once sparkling, were now black, utterly, completely black. I didn't just lose my past. My past had been warped, infected, poisoned by him. I no longer knew what was real, what was memory. My own self, my own history, was being erased, rewritten. I buried my face in the crisp, burned edge of the photo, my whole body shaking. When I finally dared to lift my head, I saw it. My reflection, in the old, dusty glass covering the picture. It blinked. My reflection blinked.
But only one eye. Only the left eye of my reflection, the one belonging to normal Ilara, blinked. The right eye remained wide open, unblinking, black and empty like Marcus's, staring straight at me. A single tear, huge and dark, rolled down its cheek. Not my tear. It was black, inky black, like tar, and as it reached the chin of the mirrored image, it started to drip, not onto the photo, but seemingly into the air, into nothing. I shrieked, a raw, guttural sound that tore through my throat. I scrambled backward, tripping over my own feet, pushing myself away from the photo with such force that my back slammed against the wall. My breathing was ragged, shallow gasps. My eyes, wide open, stared at the picture. It was just sitting there on the floor, Unmoving, no reflection, no black tear, nothing. Just the burned, distorted image. But the smell. It was back. Fainter than last night, but unmistakable. The sharp, almost metallic scent of Marcus's cologne. It wafted around me, rising from the floorboards, from the very air itself. It was everywhere. It was in me. And I knew, with a horrifying certainty, that it was not going to let me go, ever. I remember grabbing the old suitcase, the one I hadn't touched in years. My hands were shaking, clumsy. All I wanted was to just leave, get out, anywhere. A hotel, a friend's place, just not here. Not this apartment that was slowly becoming a nightmare. Everything felt too heavy, too cold. My own skin felt wrong. I started pulling clothes from the dresser drawers, not really seeing them. T-shirts, jeans, just a blur of fabric. My mind was reeling from that photo, from what I saw, or thought I saw, in the reflection. It wasn't real. It couldn't be. Had to be exhaustion, stress, my mind finally breaking. I was reaching for a sweater, my fingers fumbling with the soft wool, when it happened. The air shifted. Didn't change, just shifted. Like a thick curtain being drawn over the real world. The apartment, the familiar smell of floor cleaner and old books, it all wavered. A faint, almost imperceptible scent began to creep in. Damp earth. And something else. Something older, musty, like a place that had been empty for too long, holding its breath. I froze, sweater still in hand. My breath hitched. It was like I was stuck between two breaths, unable to inhale or exhale. The light in the room, which had been bright and artificial, softened, muted. It became a hazy, late afternoon glow, the kind that barely pushes through heavy, grimy windows. The walls, they were different. The pale cream paint of my bedroom seemed to peel back, dissolving into faded floral wallpaper. The texture was rougher now. The familiar wooden floorboards under my feet felt colder, harder. And then there was the silence. Not the usual city rumble, not even the hum of my fridge. Just a deep, heavy quiet. A quiet that felt like it had weight, like it was pressing down on my eardrums. I lowered the sweater slowly, my gaze sweeping the room. It wasn't my bedroom anymore, not really. It was a living room, an old one. Dust motes danced in a single, pale shaft of light slicing through a tall, narrow window. The air hung thick with the smell of damp and things left to decay. And then I knew. I knew where I was. Or where I was supposed to be. This was Marcus's old house. His childhood home. The one we used to sneak into when his parents were out, pretending we were grown-ups, planning our lives. But it wasn't the same. It was stripped, bleak. The old worn carpet was still there, a faded green, but in the center there was a deep impression, a hollow in the fibers, perfectly shaped, as if a large, heavy armchair had been removed moments ago. Its absence was louder than any sound. My throat was dry, so dry it hurt. My eyes darted around.
Every shadow seemed to stretch a little too long, every corner a little too dark. Then I heard it, a soft scrape, from upstairs, just above my head, like fingernails dragging lightly across wood. My body stiffened, every muscle locked. I stopped breathing, waited. Another sound, a slow, deliberate creak, as if something heavy was shifting its weight, or someone. My vision seemed to narrow, everything beyond the edges of the room blurring into a tunnel of muted colors. I could feel my heart hammering against my ribs, a frantic, desperate bird trying to escape. Its beat reverberated in my ears, making me feel lightheaded. I knew it was here. I did.
It had followed me. No, it had lured me. Into this place. Its place. I couldn't see it, but I felt a pressure, a cold, knowing gaze. It was like an invisible cord was tied around my stomach, pulling me, slowly, deeper into the house. I closed my eyes, just for a second, tried to force it away, to make it my apartment again. When I closed my eyes, a memory rushed in, a beautiful one. Me, younger, Marcus, laughing. We were in this very room, back when it was full of furniture, full of life. We were dancing, silly, awkward. The radio was playing a pop song, something upbeat and cheerful. My hand in his, our bodies swaying, a perfect, innocent moment. I could feel his hand warm against mine, his smile bright. I felt a small, fleeting smile try to touch my own lips. But then, Marcus in the memory, he twisted. Not a dance move, a grotesque, sickening twist. His face, once happy, began to stretch, to pull at the skin. His smile widened, wider than physically possible, reaching his ears. Those bright eyes I remembered, they became hollow, empty, lifeless. And the music, the cheerful pop song, it dissolved into a high-pitched, grating screech that ripped through my head, scraping at my very sanity. It felt like someone had taken a tuning fork and slammed it against the wall of my skull. I gasped, my eyes snapping open. The old living room was still there. The damp smell was stronger now, the pale light colder. And on the brick wall, right next to where the old radio used to sit, a patch of damp, dark mold had spread. It wasn't just mold. It was moving, shifting, forming. Slowly, sickeningly, it began to take the shape of a face. Marcus's face. The distorted, stretched-out smile from my nightmare memory. The hollow, dead eyes. It was smiling at me. From the wall. This wasn't just a memory. It was infected, poisoned, a parasitic thing, feeding off my own past, turning it into something hideous. It felt like a disease seeping from the walls into my very being. I stumbled backward, my legs barely holding me. No, I couldn't stay here. I had to get out, had to find a way. My mind, it screamed. I had to run. I spun around, looking for an exit, for any door that wasn't tainted. I found myself in a narrow hallway.
darker than the living room. It smelled even more strongly of decay here, of something old and forgotten. My feet, they almost moved on their own, compelled. I wanted to escape, but something was guiding me deeper into the house's cold, dead heart. It felt like walking through treacle, every step an effort, yet I couldn't stop. At the very end of the hallway, in a room that seemed even emptier than the others, stood a single object. A tall, freestanding mirror, old. Its surface was cloudy, mottled with age spots and a thick layer of dust. I approached it, my breath ragged. My reflection looked back at me, pale, terrified. My hair was a mess, my eyes wide, bloodshot. I tried to offer a faint smile, a gesture of defiance, of trying to reclaim myself. My reflection in the mirror, its smile was slower, like something was lagging. I blinked. My reflection blinked too. But its eyes, they lingered for half a second longer, like a machine sputtering to life. Not quite human, not quite mine. Then he appeared. Not behind me, not beside me, but inside my reflection. Marcus. His face was distorted, his skin mottled, but it was him, or what he had become. He looked straight at me, from within the glass, his eyes dark, infinitely deep. And his voice. It wasn't a sound in the air. It was in my head. A whisper, clear, familiar, but ice cold. It resonated in my skull, vibrating through my bones. You are my destiny, Ilara. My breath hitched again. My reflection in the mirror seemed to echo my terror, yet it remained eerily calm. I will make you perfect, so perfect. I tried to scream. My mouth opened, my throat worked, but no sound, nothing, not a whisper, nothing. The room was utterly silent. The ringing in my ears intensified, a high-pitched whine that drowned out everything, leaving only Marcus's voice in the stark, terrifying landscape of my mind. We will be together forever. The Ilara in the mirror, my own reflection, started to change. A dark sheen spread across its skin, like oil. Marcus, still inside, still whispering in my mind, slowly raised his hand. His fingers, long and skeletal, reached out, coming closer to the Ilara reflection. Then he touched it. He touched the reflected Ilara.
And immediately, the skin of my reflection began to crack. Not like glass, but like old, dry earth. Deep fissures appeared, crawling across her cheek, her forehead, her neck. And beneath the cracking, peeling layers of my skin, something else was exposed. Gray, dead-looking, hard, like stone. Marcus's skin. The rough, gnarled texture from the photo, from the news articles. I recoiled, stumbling back again, kicking the old wooden floor. Horrified. It wasn't about control anymore. It was about replacement. He didn't want to possess me. He wanted me to become him. to shed my skin and reveal the monster beneath, to be him. Tears streamed down my face, hot and salty. I clawed at my own face, at my own skin. No, no, not this. I didn't want this. I didn't want to be him. I wanted to be me, just me, the Alara I knew, the Alara that was still, somehow, deep down, alive. My mind was a whirlwind of panic, of gut-wrenching despair. I was trapped in his house, in his world, in his mirror, losing myself, becoming him. Something snapped, a flicker of raw, desperate will. I couldn't let it happen. I couldn't. I bit down, as hard as I could, on my own tongue. A sharp, searing pain shot through my mouth. A taste of iron, of hot, coppery blood, flooded my senses. It was real. The pain was undeniably real. The reflection in the mirror, the cracking, ghoulish face of me turning into Marcus, wavered. It shuddered. Marcus in the mirror opened his mouth, and a sound erupted. Not a word. Not even a human scream. A guttural, formless shriek of pure rage and agony that tore through the phantom silence. I lifted my other hand, and I slapped myself, hard, across the face. The impact stung, a sharp physical jolt. Each blow, each wave of actual pain was like a pinprick, a tiny, furious needle stabbing at the fabric of Marcus's illusion. The mirror image fractured. The crack spread not just on the reflected skin, but across the entire surface of the mirror. It splintered, exploded, into 1,000 tiny shards of light and shadow, and that awful, formless scream of his ripped one last time through my reeling mind, then faded into a distant echo. My eyes blinked rapidly, trying to clear away the afterimages, the red spots dancing in my vision. My head spun. I was lying on the cold wooden floor, my actual apartment floor. The suitcase was tipped over, clothes spilling out. The large mirror I always kept propped against the wall had indeed toppled down. I must have stumbled back and knocked it. There was no Marcus, no distorted reflection, just dust and the familiar smell of my own apartment. I gasped, scrabbling backward until my back hit the cool plaster wall. I curled into a ball, shaking uncontrollably, gasping for air that felt thin, metallic. My chest ached, my throat was raw. My tongue throbbed, and I could still taste the bitter tang of blood in my mouth. I rubbed my stinging cheek. I had escaped. I had won. Slowly, carefully, my trembling hand reached up, to my neck, to the soft skin just above my collarbone, where my pulse beat a frantic, uneven rhythm. And there it was. Something small, raised, hard, like a tiny old scar right beneath the skin. Colder than the skin around it. It wasn't visible. I couldn't see it with my eyes. But I could feel it. A distinct, cold, unyielding bump. And if I closed my eyes, if I concentrated, I could almost trace its shape. It felt like an M. A small, perfectly formed M. It hadn't been there before. I knew it hadn't. A part of Marcus. It had stayed. A souvenir. A trophy. A piece of him left behind. Not just in my mind. On my body. A physical manifestation of his eternal presence. My small, safe apartment had been my castle,
but he had shattered it. And even though he was gone, a fragment of him now resides quietly within me, forever. I pushed myself up slowly. My body felt heavy, exhausted. Every muscle ached. I dragged myself to the window overlooking the city street. The sun was shining. Cars drove by. People walked. Dogs barked in the park across the street. Life, normal life. It was all still happening, out there. But I wasn't part of it anymore. Not really. My job was gone. My relationship with Ben dissolved. My friendship with Sarah probably tainted beyond repair, or at least twisted by my own paranoia. Everything I had built, everything I had known, it was all ash, scattered. But I was alive.
I had survived. My fingers, still trembling, went to my neck again, to that small, cold bump. The M, always there now. I walked to the small bathroom, peered into the mirror above the sink. My face was pale. My eyes, red and hollow, stared back. I took a deep, shuddering breath. I tried to smile. The smile on my face was too wide. It stretched my lips impossibly far, pulling the skin tight. It reached my ears. But there was no joy in it, no warmth. Only a vast, chilling emptiness. My eyes, though not black, held a strange, unsettling sheen, like still water reflecting nothing. It wasn't my smile, not anymore. I had escaped him, but I was not me. I was a ghost walking through the wreckage of my own life, carrying a piece of the monster within me. He had won a part of me, and I would carry him, always.